Hey everyone, Nick Marzinski here at TrappingLight.com. In my last video tutorial, I discussed how to import photos into Adobe Lightroom. As I said then, in addition to allowing you to edit photographs, Lightroom is also really a workflow management tool. So the only way it works is if you actually let Lightroom know where the images are on your computer. However, now that I've actually imported the images on my computer, at this point it's time for me to start organizing and sorting them. And there's only one thing I'm asking myself during this first pass at organization, and that's, is this image great, is it okay, or is it lousy? So let's get started. As you can see here, I'm still within the library module in Lightroom. On the left-hand side of my screen, I've got a set of expandable menus, and right now I'm going to expand the folders menu. This is showing me where the images are actually stored on my hard drive. Remember, Lightroom doesn't actually store the images within Lightroom. It actually writes them directly to a folder on your hard drive. In this case, the images that I'm looking at here are stored in my C drive, in my pictures, all photos, 2014 artwork, and then macro photography. Okay, so that's the actual place in my hard drive where those images are stored. And part of the import process that I covered in the last tutorial is that the import process is designed in part to tell Lightroom where your images are. So it's really important that if you want to move images around, you do it in this filter tab here. And if you decide to exit Lightroom and then use something like Windows Explorer or Apple Finder or something like that and move your images, Lightroom won't know where your images are anymore, and so it's going to throw up a missing link warning, and that's not good. Then you have to resync your images to Lightroom. So to get around that, to make sure that that doesn't happen, if you want to move your images, you can still do it, but you're going to want to do it within this folders panel in your library module. So always move them in here. In this middle window here, we have our images, and right now they're in a grid view. I also have the images appearing down here on the film strip, so I really don't need to see this grid, and I'm going to change it to a loop view by pressing E on my keyboard. The other thing that I should also point out at this point is that the function keys F5 through F8 control your top bars and sidebars. So if I press them once, it hides those sidebars. If I press them again, it brings them back. Okay? At this point, the one that I want to hide is this right one right here. I don't really gain anything from seeing that, so I'm going to press F8 and it will get rid of that. And what that does is it just makes this view right here bigger on my screen. It just gives me more screen real estate that I can use to see my image. Okay, so I've got this image of a flower, and I rather like it actually, so I want to tag this image in a way so I remember that it's a good image if I come back to it later. Lightroom provides a few different ways to do that. I can either use stars or colors or flags. To use stars, Lightroom will allow me to set a 1 through 5 star ranking, and I can press the numbers 1 through 5 on my keyboard to set a ranking. So let's say that I think this image is a 5-star. I'm going to press 5, and on the bottom it says set ranking to 5. And over here on this little image, you can see that it's got 5 stars. It's also got 5 stars right there. Okay, so great, it's a 5-star image. But let's say that I look at it some more and go, you know what, this is really a 4-star image. Well, in order to change the ranking, I just press 4. And now it changes it to a 4-star ranking, and it knocks a star off here on the bottom. If I don't want to rank it at all, I just press 0 and it completely clears the star ranking out. For colors, I can use the numbers 6 through 9 to set a color for my image. So if I want it to be a red image, let's say, then I use the number 6 and it will set the label to red. On here you can see that there's a little bit of a red box around it, or 7 or 8 or 9. If I want to clear out my color ranking, all I do is press the same number again. So right now, this image is a blue colored image. To clear the blue, I just press 9 again, and it removes the blue label. Now, both stars and colors can work as filter settings, but they're kind of confusing. In the case of stars, what really separates, say, a 4-star image from a 5-star image? In the same way with colors, what's the difference between a red image and a yellow image? Okay, there's a bit of confusion there, and because of that, I don't like to use these two labeling schemes. They cause too much confusion. They cause too much anxiety of trying to get a ranking right. Is it 5-star or 4-star or 3-star? Instead, I like to use flags because remember at the beginning of the tutorial I said I just want to know whether my image is great or okay or lousy. Well, flags let me do that. If I really like an image, I can flag it as a pick, meaning that I really like it, by pressing P on my keyboard. Okay. In the same way, if I really don't like an image, I can also flag it as a reject by pressing X. If I make a mistake, I can always unflag by pressing U. But in the case of this image, I really like it, so I'm going to flag it with a P. At this point, I can press the right arrow to advance to the next image, but actually there's an easier way if you're doing things this way with flagging your images or setting rankings. Up here at the top on my photo dropdown, I can click Auto Advance. If I click that, it will check it. And what Auto Advance does is it means that every single time I rate an image using a flag or a star or a color, Lightroom will automatically advance to the next image. That's a great time saver if you're working with hundreds of images. You're saving, maybe only a second or two an image, but it really adds up into minutes that you could spend doing other things like optimizing your images and editing your images. So at this point in the process, it's all about saving time. It's all about getting to the images that you want so that you can just work on those images and not spend time or waste time working on images that you're never really going to fix. Okay, so I've ranked my first image. Now I'm going to go through the rest of them and rank them. So the second image here, well, it's basically the same as the last image, which I liked, but I don't need 2 copies. So I'm not going to flag this one, and I'll just press the right arrow key to go to the next one. Okay, this one I actually rather like, so I'm going to flag it with a pick. This one over here, the light is really, really harsh. I don't like the harsh shadow, so I'm going to actually reject this image. Same thing is kind of going on here, but I won't reject it. I'll just not flag it. This looks okay, but I can do better, so I'm going to reject it. This is a little bit better, but still not great, so I'm not going to flag it. This actually looks kind of interesting, so I'm going to pick it. This is slightly out of focus, so I'm going to X that one out. I don't really like that one. This one is pretty good, so I'll flag that as a pick. This, I think I could probably do some interesting tonal stuff, maybe black and white with, so I'll flag it as a pick. That one looks just okay, but not great. Okay. This actually looks kind of interesting, so I'm going to flag this one as a pick. That might be interesting as a black and white, so I'll pick it. That one I really don't care that much for. And this one, the light is harsh, so it's a reject. This is just a texture that I took. In this case, it's a little out of focus on the right side, so that's also a reject. And this is an image of a fence. Not crazy about it, but don't hate it. And this one might be interesting for something, so I'm going to actually flag that as a pick. So I've gone through my images, and I've flagged them all, and I've chosen which ones I like and which ones I don't. The very first thing I do at this point is press Control or Command and Backspace. And what that does is it filters based off of all of my rejects. At this point, I can tell Lightroom either to simply delete them, remove them from the library, or delete them from the library as well as the hard disk. These images here are the ones that I really don't like. So I don't really ever need to see them again. So in this case, and really every single time I do this, I always just simply delete them from the disk. I get rid of them. I don't want to see them again. Just erase them. Now I have my picks and my OK images. And what I want to do now is filter for my picks. To do that, I'm going to press the backspace key on my keyboard. And it's going to bring me back to this grid view, but it also gives me this library filter right up here. At this point, I'm going to click Attribute, and then it gives me attributes that I can filter my images based off of. In this case, I can just simply select the flag, make sure that the flag is selected, and now I'm filtering my images based off of the flag. Only my images that are actually flagged are being selected. Because these are my favorites, these are the ones that I'm going to want to spend the most amount of my time on. So now that I've got them filtered, I'm going to select all of them by pressing Control A or Command A. And I'm going to group them into what's called a collection. So what's a collection? Well, from the outside, a collection looks a little like Lightroom is actually making a copy of your image into a special collections folder. But that's not really what's happening. Instead, Lightroom is actually attaching a small bit of metadata to this image, just simply saying, hey, this image is part of this collection. So it's not actually copying the image, it's not actually moving the image at all, it's just simply attaching like almost the computer equivalent of a post-it note saying this image is part of a collection. And because it's not copying the image, it can make these collections without taking up very much hard drive space at all. To add my selected images to a collection or to start a new collection, I'm going to go back over here to my left-hand panel, and I'm going to unclick the Folders menu and click the Collections menu. Within that, I'm going to click this plus button, which will let me add a new collection, and it'll come up with this new Create Collection. At this point, I'm going to name my collection. I'm going to call it Flower Picks. And I can also choose to group it inside of a collection set. Think of collection sets kind of like folders that you can store with collections within. You can also create a collection set by pressing the plus button. In this case, I usually group collections by year, so 2011, 2012, 2013, and 2014. I'm going to want to group this collection set inside collection number 2014. And I also want to make sure to include selected photos. Once that's done, I can click create. Oh, one other thing I should point out. If you're using Adobe Photoshop Lightroom for the Creative Cloud, you also have the ability to sync with Lightroom Mobile. So if you have Lightroom Mobile on your iPad or iPhone, checking this box will make sure that that collection syncs up so that you can rely on your collections even if you're working in Lightroom on a mobile device. In this case, I don't have Lightroom Mobile because I'm only using Android, so I'm going to leave this unchecked, and I'm going to click Create to create the collection. Now you can see that all of my flower pics that I liked, these 8 pictures that I liked from my shoot that I did, are all grouped within this collection. Because I've got them grouped here, now I don't have to worry about going through my folders to see what images I want to work on. I can instead rely just on this collections here and only edit these images that are in my collections. I've still saved those images that I thought were okay but not great within the folder. They're still there. But in this case, I only want to be editing these images here that are right within my collection. So for the rest of the time, I'm going to want to be working in a collection when I move over to the Develop module to actually start editing my images. But that's going to be the subject of the next tutorial. And that's really where I move into Develop to work on optimizing images. And for me, this is where Lightroom really shines. So I'm going to be spending a lot of time talking about what happens in the Develop module because there's a lot you can do there. In the meantime, think about how collections and flags can help you process your images. Hope you enjoyed the tutorial. If you have any questions, you can either leave them at my blog at trappinglight.com or on my YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.